Your belly fat is not a willpower problem. It is a hormonal trap, and every diet you have ever tried was designed without understanding that trap. The fitness industry spent decades telling you to eat less and move more while completely ignoring the one molecule that controls whether your body burns fat or locks it away forever. That molecule is insulin, and until you learn how to control it, nothing else you do will matter. Intermittent fasting done the right way, based on real science, is the most powerful insulin reset available to the human body without medication. It does not just help you lose weight. It rewires your metabolism at a hormonal level, forces your body to attack stored belly fat as its primary fuel source, and breaks the biological cycle that has been keeping you stuck for years. This is not another eating schedule. This is a complete shift in how your body operates. In this video, you are going to understand exactly what is happening inside your body every hour you fast, why most people doing intermittent fasting are still getting zero results, and the precise adjustments that separate the people who transform their bodies from the ones who quit after 2 weeks. Stay until the end, because the detail that changes everything comes later than you expect. There is a conversation happening in gyms, nutrition clinics, and research labs around the world. And it all points to one uncomfortable truth. The traditional approach to weight loss has been failing people for decades. Count your calories, eat less, move more. That has been the dominant advice for generations. And yet obesity rates keep climbing, belly fat keeps accumulating, and millions of people keep trying and failing to lose weight fast through methods that simply do not work the way they were promised to. The frustration is real. The effort is real. The effort is real. But the results, they rarely match the sacrifice. What makes this particularly painful is that most people who struggle with fat burning are not lazy. They are not undisciplined. They wake up early. They cut the bread. They skip dessert. They go for the walk, and still, the mirror tells the same story. The belly stays. The waist doesn't shrink. And somewhere in the back of the mind, a dangerous thought begins to grow. Maybe this is just how my body is. Maybe I'm the problem. That thought is wrong, and it's important to say that clearly before going any further. The problem is not you. The problem is the strategy. Intermittent fasting, when applied with precision and grounded in what science actually says about human metabolism, is one of the most powerful tools available for people who want to eliminate abdominal fat without destroying their relationship with food or their mental health in the process. It does not require expensive supplements, complex healthy meal plans, or hours at the gym every single day. What it requires is understanding a clear picture of what is happening inside your body when you eat, when you fast, and when your hormones are working either for you or against you. Here is where most people get it wrong. They treat intermittent fasting as a calorie restriction tool. They think the goal is simply to eat less by compressing their eating window, and they expect the weight to fall off as a result. While caloric balance does play a role in any weight loss journey, reducing fasting to a numbers game completely ignores the hormonal and metabolic transformation that makes this approach so uniquely effective. The real power of intermittent fasting has almost nothing to do with calories, and everything to do with insulin. Insulin is the master hormone of fat storage. Every time you eat, especially carbohydrates and processed foods, your pancreas releases insulin to manage the rise in blood sugar. Insulin's primary job is to shuttle glucose into your cells for energy. But here is the part that no one tells you at the beginning. When insulin is elevated, your body is physiologically incapable of burning stored fat. It is biologically impossible. Insulin locks fat inside your fat cells. It is a one-way door, and as long as that door is closed, no amount of fitness effort will access the fat sitting around your midsection. This is why people can exercise for months and see almost no reduction in belly fat. They are training hard, sweating, burning calories, but their insulin levels, driven by frequent eating, snacking, and processed food choices, remain high enough to block fat mobilization entirely. The body burns the glucose available in the bloodstream and then signals for more food. The stored fat just sits there, untouched, growing with each insulin spike. This cycle is not a matter of character, it is biochemistry. Intermittent fasting interrupts this cycle in a profound way. When you extend the time between your last meal and your next one, genuinely extending it, not just slightly delaying breakfast, insulin levels drop. They drop low enough, and stay low long enough, for a completely different metabolic state to emerge. Once insulin falls to baseline and stays there for several hours, the body begins to look for alternative fuel sources. It starts mobilizing fatty acids from adipose tissue, which means it starts burning the fat you've been trying to get rid of. This process becomes especially pronounced when the fasting window extends beyond 14 to 16 hours, which is why the most commonly recommended protocols in clinical research tend to cluster around the 16 to 8 model. 16 hours fasted, 8 hours eating. But there is more happening during a fast than simply insulin going down. As fasting extends into the later hours, growth hormone levels begin to rise significantly. This is important for anyone concerned, not just with slimming down but with maintaining or building lean muscle tissue throughout the process. Growth hormone is powerfully anti-catabolic, meaning it protects muscle from being broken down for energy. It also amplifies fat burning directly, signaling adipose tissue to release fatty acids at a faster rate. The combination of low insulin and elevated growth hormone creates a metabolic environment that is exceptionally favorable for body composition changes, losing fat while preserving or even improving muscle mass. There is also a cellular process called autophagy that begins to accelerate during extended fasting. Autophagy is essentially the body's internal cleanup system. It breaks down damaged proteins, clears out dysfunctional cellular components, and recycles molecular material. Researchers believe this process plays a meaningful role not just in longevity and disease prevention, but in metabolic health more broadly. A metabolism that functions efficiently is a metabolism that loses weight healthily and sustains that loss over time, rather than bouncing back the moment a diet ends. What this means practically is that intermittent fasting, done correctly, is not a short-term fix. It is a metabolic reset. It is a way of training your body to access its own fat stores efficiently, to stabilize hormonal rhythms that govern hunger and satiety, and to build the kind of internal environment where weight loss tips and strategies actually have a substrate to work with. Most diets fail not because people lack commitment, but because the hormonal terrain is wrong from the start. Intermittent fasting corrects the terrain first. Understanding the science is only the first step. The second and arguably more important step is knowing how to actually implement intermittent fasting in a way that produces consistent results without making your daily life miserable. Because here is a reality that many fitness influencers and even some nutrition professionals gloss over. Fasting done incorrectly can slow your metabolism, increase cortisol, disrupt sleep, and leave you so hungry and irritable by the afternoon that you end up overeating in ways that completely erase any fat-burning progress you made during the fasted state. The method matters as much as the concept. The most accessible entry point for the majority of people is the 16-to-8 protocol. 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours in which all meals are consumed. On paper it sounds restrictive. In practice it is far more manageable than it appears, because roughly 7 or 8 of those fasting hours occur during sleep. If your last meal ends at 8 in the evening and you delay your first meal until noon the following day, you have completed a 16-hour fast with almost no conscious effort during the overnight portion. The challenge is the morning window, the 4 hours between waking and breaking the fast, and that challenge is where most people either succeed or abandon the protocol entirely within the first 2 weeks. The key to getting through the morning window without suffering is understanding what actually breaks a fast metabolically. Plain water does not break a fast. Black coffee, no sugar, no milk, no cream does not break a fast in any meaningful hormonal sense. And for most people it actually enhances the fat-burning environment by mildly elevating adrenaline and suppressing appetite. Plain green tea functions similarly. These 3 beverages become the foundation of a sustainable morning fasting routine, and their inclusion makes the difference between a protocol that feels like deprivation and one that integrates naturally into a person's life. The goal is not suffering, the goal is hormonal optimization. And you can reach that goal while still enjoying your morning ritual. When the eating window opens, what you eat during those 8 hours will determine whether intermittent fasting becomes a powerful weight loss tool or simply a delayed breakfast with no meaningful impact on your body composition. This is where many people make the critical mistake of treating the eating window as a reward period, consuming ultra-processed foods, refined carbohydrates, and calorie-dense snacks on the logic that they fasted all morning and therefore earned it. This thinking destroys the metabolic benefit almost entirely. High glycemic foods consumed during the eating window spike insulin sharply and repeatedly, which means the body spends most of the eating window in fat storage mode rather than a neutral or fat-burning state. The fasted hours creates the opportunity. The eating window determines whether that opportunity is used or wasted. Building healthy meal plans around whole foods, quality proteins, fibrous vegetables, and healthy fats during the eating window keeps insulin responses moderate and stable, extends the metabolic benefits of the fasting period, and provides the micronutrients and satiety signals necessary to avoid compulsive overeating. Protein deserves particular emphasis here. Of all the macronutrients, protein has the highest thermic effect, meaning your body burns more calories simply digesting it, and it is the most effective at preserving lean muscle tissue during periods of caloric deficit. For anyone focused on the goal to lose belly fat specifically, maintaining muscle mass is not optional. Muscle is metabolically active tissue. The more of it you have, the higher your baseline caloric expenditure, which means a stronger and more efficient boost metabolism response throughout the day, even at rest. Hydration during both the fasting and eating windows is another variable that receives far less attention than it deserves in most weight loss tips conversations. Mild dehydration is frequently misinterpreted by the brain as hunger, leading people to eat when what their body actually needs is water. During the fasting window especially, consistent hydration helps manage appetite, supports kidney function as fatty acids are metabolized, and prevents the headaches and fatigue that many beginners attribute to fasting itself but are actually symptoms of dehydration. Aiming for 2 to 3 liters of water spread across the day, with emphasis during the fasted hours, dramatically improves the experience of the protocol, particularly in the first 2 to 3 weeks of adaptation. Speaking of adaptation, the first week of intermittent fasting is almost universally the hardest, and knowing this in advance is itself a meaningful form of preparation. During the initial days, the body is still operating on its habitual glucose rhythms. It expects food at the times it has always received food, and when that food does not arrive, it generates hunger signals that feel urgent and uncomfortable. These signals are not a sign that the body is starving or that the protocol is wrong. They are simply the expression of conditioned metabolic expectation, and they diminish significantly within 7 to 14 days as the body recalibrates its hormonal rhythms to align with the new eating pattern. Ghrelin, the primary hunger hormone, is strongly habit-driven, and it adapts its secretion timing to match your consistent behavioral patterns. Push through the first week, and the second week becomes noticeably easier. By the third or fourth week, many people report that they are genuinely not hungry during the fasted window and that their relationship with food has fundamentally shifted. This shift in relationship with food is one of the most underappreciated benefits of intermittent fasting, particularly from a mental health resources perspective. Constant eating 6 small meals a day, snacking every 2 hours, never allowing hunger to develop keeps many people in a state of perpetual preoccupation with food. What am I going to eat next? Is it time yet? Should I have the snack now or wait? Intermittent fasting simplifies this entirely. There are hours in the day when eating is simply not part of the equation, and within that simplicity comes a kind of cognitive freedom that improves focus, reduces food-related anxiety, and allows people to build a healthier and less compulsive relationship with eating over the long term. There is a dimension of intermittent fasting that rarely makes it into the mainstream conversation about slimming down and body transformation, and it may be the most important one of all: the long-term hormonal recalibration that occurs when this protocol is followed consistently over weeks and months. Most people evaluate their progress by the scale alone, checking their weight every morning, and drawing conclusions from daily fluctuations that are largely driven by water retention, glycogen levels, and digestive contents rather than actual fat loss. This single habit, over-relying on the scale as the primary feedback mechanism, causes more people to abandon effective protocols prematurely than almost any other factor in the lose-weight fast culture that dominates online fitness spaces today. Real fat loss, particularly the kind that targets visceral adipose tissue, the deep abdominal fat that wraps around internal organs and drives the most significant health risks, is a slower and more layered process than social media would have you believe. Visceral fat is metabolically stubborn not because the body is broken, but because it serves a specific hormonal and energetic purpose in the body's survival architecture. It is the last line of reserve. The body protects it, and the only way to access it consistently and sustainably is to create the precise hormonal conditions: low insulin, elevated growth hormone, stable cortisol that signal to the body that it is safe to release that stored energy. Intermittent fasting, when practiced with patience and structural consistency, creates exactly those conditions. But it requires time, and it requires that the practitioner understand that the absence of dramatic week 1 results is not failure, it is biology. One of the variables that most significantly accelerates the process of eliminating abdominal fat through intermittent fasting is the deliberate management of cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. Cortisol and fat storage around the midsection have a direct and well-documented relationship. Chronic elevated cortisol produced by poor sleep, psychological stress, overtraining, excessive caffeine intake, and erratic eating patterns signals the body to preferentially store fat in the abdominal region and simultaneously breaks down lean muscle tissue. This is why 2 people can follow essentially the same fasting protocol and eating window and produce dramatically different results. The one sleeping 6 solid hours, managing psychological load, and training with appropriate intensity will consistently outperform the one who is chronically stressed, sleep-deprived, and treating every workout as a maximum effort event. The protocol is the same. The hormonal environment is completely different. Sleep, in this context, is not a peripheral lifestyle variable. It is a core pillar of any serious fat-burning strategy. During deep sleep stages, the body performs the majority of its growth hormone secretion, cellular repair, and hormonal rebalancing. Intermittent fasting actually synergizes powerfully with quality sleep, because the overnight fasting period, when insulin is at its lowest and growth hormone is at its highest, is when the most significant metabolic work occurs. People who optimize their sleep alongside their fasting protocol consistently report faster reductions in waist circumference, better energy levels during the fasted morning window, and stronger appetite regulation during the eating period. Prioritizing 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep is not optional for someone serious about the goal to lose weight healthily and keep it off permanently. Physical activity integrates into intermittent fasting in a way that, once understood, becomes one of the most powerful levers available for accelerating results. Training in a fasted state, particularly low to moderate intensity cardio or resistance training performed in the final hours of the fasting window, exposes the body to a unique combination of low insulin and elevated catecholamines that maximally favors fat mobilization. The body, already in fat-burning mode from the extended fast, is pushed further into lipolysis by the energy demand of exercise. For people willing to experiment with fasted training, the results in terms of body composition can be striking, particularly around the midsection. However, it is important to note that fasted high-intensity training can elevate cortisol significantly. and for individuals already carrying high stress loads, it may be more beneficial to train shortly after breaking the fast rather than before. Fitness is not a one-size-fits-all variable, and context always matters. As the weeks progress and the body fully adapts to the fasting protocol, something remarkable begins to happen beyond the physical changes. The relationship between the individual and food undergoes a genuine transformation. Hunger becomes a signal rather than an emergency. Meals become more intentional. The compulsive reach for snacks, the mindless eating that accumulates hundreds of calories daily without any conscious decision, gradually disappears. People who have followed structured weight loss tips and diet plans for years and felt like food controlled them begin to experience for the first time a genuine sense of agency over their eating behavior. This psychological shift is one of the most commonly reported and least discussed benefits of sustained intermittent fasting, and it has profound implications for mental health resources and long-term behavioral sustainability. The science is clear, the method is accessible, and the results when the protocol is followed with understanding and consistency are real and measurable. Lose belly fat is not a fantasy reserved for people with perfect genetics or unlimited time. It is a metabolic outcome that becomes available to anyone who is willing to work with their biology rather than against it. Intermittent fasting is not the only path to that outcome, but for millions of people around the world, it has become the path that finally worked, not because it is magic, but because it addresses the actual hormonal mechanisms that drive fat storage and fat release in the human body. Boost metabolism, regulate insulin, protect muscle, manage stress, sleep well, eat real food during your window, and give the process the time it deserves. The body knows how to do this. Your only job is to create the conditions that allow it to. There's a natural solution to speed up your metabolism, control cravings, and support your weight loss journey naturally and effectively. Click the link in the first pinned comment to start transforming your body.